Story 1. I won on a scratcher at 12:10 a.m., New Year's Day, 2020. I immediately ran upstairs, grabbed my wife, and screamed, "We can buy the house!" So we did, and it has been a blessing. Story 2. The same products I would buy right now. Honestly, I think I would hunker down, conceal the win, and get some advice before spending too much. So maybe technically I would buy a financial advisor's services first. It would be nice to have an impromptu holiday, though. Story 3. A cold case detective's time to have my father's suspicious death properly investigated. Story 4. 300-acre ranch with an animal shelter and a small village for veterinarians. Story 5. Guacamole at Chipotle, then invest the rest. I've splurged enough. Story 6. A house for my mom with a private care team that includes a chef who will cook for her and teach her how to cook, a physical therapist and fitness coach, a therapist, someone to spend time with and help with errands, and a small dog. I would also tune up her car or buy her a new one while keeping her old car. Story 7. Move out of the United States and start following Formula One around. I would go to every Grand Prix. Story 8. A dentist visit, then the blood tests I cannot afford, then to pay for what the blood tests reveal. Story 9. Where did you hear that I won the lottery? I did not win anything. Story 10. I have a pretty heavy to-be-read list, so probably some books. My first single purchase would honestly be like a sweet treat or something to celebrate. Story 11. The services of a personal assistant and house manager. I do not want to schedule another appointment for myself ever again. A light bulb burned out? They take care of it before I even know it was out. Menu planned and groceries purchased? Done. Car needs an oil change? It is done without a worry. Story 12. Assuming we have taken care of the investments and paid off family debt, I am buying a couple hundred acres of mixed farmland, cattle grazing, a fishing lake, hunting lands, and space for expansive housing plots for me and a few close family members. There will also be larger outlying plots for cabins that friends and relatives can reserve for vacations. Building that compound outside a rural university town provides an endless pool of trained labor interns to run the farm and cattle operation, paying them well, of course. It also offers an opportunity to set up scholarships and contribute healthy food to the local community center. This seems like an obvious first step. Story 13. Depending on which lottery and how much it is, I will buy a few old hotels to renovate up to code so low-income families or homeless people can be provided shelter and a safe space. Story 14. My freedom. Love you, co-workers, but goodbye. Story 15. Property in another country to leave the United States until he is gone. Story 16. Depends on how much, but assuming I win $1 billion Powerball with my post-tax $250 million, $100 million is immediately invested into a diverse portfolio of stocks, bonds, high-yield savings accounts, gold, and other assets. This includes a dividend account I use for daily life. I will buy a decent house in my hometown, valued between $300,000 and $400,000, and a fun car. I will open a bar, which I have had a vision for a while now, and also open a music studio. I will start a nonprofit organization focused on buying commercial farmland to return to Mother Earth. I will contribute $50 million, hopefully getting enough donations to cover the taxes and to purchase new land. Most of the rest I will save, but not before buying some gifts for my friends and family. So, say $50 million or more as an emergency fund. Then I will dedicate the rest of my life to creating music, running my bar, and managing the nonprofit organization. Story 17. I will not buy anything. I will just pretend that nothing has happened. Story 18. My very own life-sized fiberglass dinosaur. I am thinking of a Tyrannosaurus Rex. Story 19. I would pay off my house and my daughter's house so there would be no more mortgage. Anything else would go to an individual retirement account or savings of some sort. Story 20. Services include a maid to clean the house, a gardener for the yard, a home chef, an accountant, and a lawyer. As for actual things, the house of my dreams. I have a list somewhere of all the features I would like in a house that will never happen. With an essentially unlimited budget, you can be sure I will have a movie theater, a multi-level library, a home gym, a virtual reality gaming room, and more. And some soundproofing for once. Story 21. Plane tickets. I would literally go to all the places I am dreaming of. Story 22. Some surfboards and a plane ticket for me and my friends. Story 23. Tuition, room, and board for my daughter to attend art school. Story 24. A pill to stop my anxiety attack, as I can't believe I just won. Story 25. I am buying the paid-off paperwork for my daughter's student loans. Story 26. Not buying, per se, but hiring a lawyer and filing an injunction to keep my presence out of the news as much as possible. No life-ruining spending sprees. Will I get one or two nice things? Well, who wouldn't, but I have a future to settle first, not to mention attending to the comfort of my parents and not telling other family members. I would never be left alone again. Story 27. All the healthcare, including dental and vision, that I have been putting off because my insurance does not cover it. Story 28. I would not buy anything yet. I would pay off my mortgage first. Story 29. Definitely buying a time machine so I can go back and tell my past self to buy more lottery tickets. Talk about playing the odds. Story 30. I am hiring a person to help create and maintain a stock portfolio so I can continue making more money. Every time I hear about someone winning the lottery, they almost always end up broke because they do not know how to manage that amount of money. They overspend without concern and end up spending too much of it. Story 31. A chunk of land, camp out there, and then contemplate the rest of my existence. Story 32. Retiring my parents, then immigrating to a neutral country and building a fully self-sufficient farm. Story 33. A new vehicle because now I can afford the car and the 10% sales tax and tag. Story 34. A mask to wear when I pick up my check at the lottery office because I have a cold. Story 35. Pay off debts, then set aside a couple of million as an automatic bill payer and emergency fund. Retire and travel. Story 36. 1. Not telling anyone except the closest people to me. 2. Investing half. 3. Big old stuffed rainbow monkey plushie. Story 37. A Popeyes 4-piece to celebrate. Real talk. Enough of the Standard & Poor's 500 and the National Association of Securities Dealers automated quotations to live off the dividends and quit my job. Story 38. A scuba shop in West Seattle. Dive instructor here. One of the best spots to dive is Alki, so why not have one there? Just have to win the lottery first. Story 39. 1. I pay off my parents' house. 2. I pay off my parents' car. 3. I pay off my parents' debt. Then I pay for things for myself. Story 40. This is a fun question. Yes, we know you would hire a lawyer and financial advisor. Thank you, Dad. The heart of the question is what you would really wish for. I like my house. It is great. But I would love to do all the upgrades we have always wanted. Finish the basement with a great bar and entertainment center. Build a huge deck and patio. Oh, and of course I need a second house somewhere warm. Story 41. Adding guacamole to my Chipotle. Man, I might even do double meat. Story 42. A car because I will likely be driving a lot and might as well get there a little more comfortably. Story 43. A sanctuary for animals who, through no fault of their own, were housed until their owner recovered or disaster areas were cleared. Story 44. A trust organization that funds children's hospitals performing cardiac surgery, in honor of my baby nephew who died this month at a center. Story 45. Yay! I won 100 euros. I'll buy an ice cream and put the rest of my winnings to normal use. Story 46. Depending on how much I win, $100 million or more, I would buy a Caterpillar bulldozer and just park it on my lawn to annoy the homeowners association. Story 47. A high-class prostitute. Need to lose that difficult to get rid of virginity. Story 48. Disappearing for a few days. My financial advisor and lawyer and I will have a very deep conversation. Then tacos. Story 49. I am going to go out to eat and not worry about the prices. Story 50. My uncle owns the property, so he does not expel the 5 family members with off-grid cabins that date back to the 1960s and 1970s. We do not own the land. My grandmother had more than 20 brothers and sisters, and they built about 15 cabins. Today, about 10 remain. For now, we are lucky he is keeping it, but we never know. I wish I could buy the field on one side of the property that someone bought and cut down the forest illegally. Replant trees and be surrounded again on all sides by forest. I can dream. It is probably worth $2 million, but I do not know if he would accept an offer. Story 51. That depends very much on how much money we are talking about. Lotteries vary widely. $1 million equals paying off bills and talking to a financial advisor about how best to invest the remainder for retirement. Maybe buying a new car, probably a certified pre-owned model. $100 million equals paying off bills, investing, buying a new car, a home, and maybe a vacation home. The former means financial security and peace of mind for the future. The latter means quitting my job and living a life of leisure. Story 52. If I had $1 million, I would be with 2 women at the same time. Seriously? Absolutely. I have always wanted to do that. I think if I were a millionaire, I could make that happen because women are attracted to men with money. Story 53. I am buying a subscription to all the local concerts, plays, musicals, and other productions. Story 54. You have to change your entire mindset. Don't think of spending. Think of growing. Get a legal and financial team if you can manage that amount of money, and invest part of it in an exchange-traded fund like Vanguard S&P 500 ETF and some in a high-yield savings account. Then pay off all debt. That money has to last, so don't go out buying everything you never had. You have to be smart with the money you have. You can't spend it recklessly. Story 55. I have seen too many of these genie wishes. I do not trust the question, so I am going to assume that it is the low end of the lottery. I am going to splurge and buy a medium cup of coffee instead of my usual small. Story 56. It sounds cheesy, but a trip to Disneyland. I never got to go to Disneyland as a kid. My parents were very young and kind of selfish. They liked to party and have poker tournaments and things like that. I would take my brother and sister as well. Don't get me wrong. They would pay for things like sports when they had to. I went to my local amusement park almost every summer. But we never went on vacation. I didn't get to go outside of my country until I was in my late teens or early 20s. Story 57. Food. Try skipping meals every day to pay a bill or help family. You do not stay hungry. You just get mad. Story 58. A team of the best, most determined lawyers in the country to serve on Republican legislators some legal challenges, misery, and discomfort similar to the kind of hardships they have inflicted on common people. Story 59. Look, this is pretty dark, but it reflects where my mindset is right now. I would use the money to ensure my family is insulated, protected, and has everything they need for life. Education funds for the children. Secure investments that grow wealth to give them a good start in life. I would do all of this to buy the right to end my life without burdening my family more than necessary. Sorry, everyone. This is supposed to be a happy-go-lucky discussion about dreams, and here I am feeling down. Maybe that financial security would buy me the time I need to get help. That would be nice. Story 60. The United States government because it is clearly for sale and inexpensive. Story 61. Nothing. I wouldn't change a single thing until everything was settled, taxes were taken care of, and the money was in my bank. Then we would apply for passports. When they finally come in, my wife, daughter, and son would leave the United States, Wales, maybe Ireland, maybe. We would move all of the money with us and apply for citizenship. No one would know we had one until after we were gone. Story 62. A plane ticket to visit my best friend. I haven't seen her in years, and it's killing me. Story 63. A round of drinks at the bar is common. I would tell them I won a scratch card that paid $2,000. I am not telling them I won a national jackpot. Story 64. It depends on the lottery. A $5 scratcher will be spent on a soda and some chips. $100 on Pick 6 or another game goes toward my wife's credit card bill. $100,000 or so gets invested after I pay off and close my wife's credit card. $1 million or more. I invest half or more, give some to my child, and seriously upgrade my living conditions. Maybe a newer car or something. Story 65. Carne asada burrito from Si Senor because that has been my favorite lately. Story 66. I won the lottery. I am buying a house in a new country. Story 67. Clear all debt, make donations, take care of family and friends, set up a nest egg for myself and just start driving. Story 68. A lawyer, an accountant, and another lawyer and accountant to keep the first two honest. Story 69. I would get a lawyer, financial advisor, and a certified public accountant. I would invest most of the money until I had a game plan. The main objective would be to buy a house, but a new car, such as a used Toyota or a vacation, would be enjoyable. Story 70. A lawyer, a financial planner, and a trust fund attorney, at least 3 people overseeing every decision. Story 71. I just bought some lottery tickets and entered the Powerball. The cashier asked me the same question. I had no answer, and he repeated, "What is the one silly thing you would buy?" Then proceeded to say what he would buy. I'm still not quite sure. Besides the obvious, paying off debt, fixing up the house, investing in a Roth individual retirement account, I don't know what I want. I've always taken care of others and don't get much for myself. Story 72. A 911 Porsche and a Rolex Daytona for myself and my best friend. Story 73. How much are we talking about? Million? A flight out of here to anywhere. 100,000s for a new house or car. Paying off debts. Hundreds in savings. Anything less to pay off debt. Story 74. A small weekend at the shore to celebrate the first big purchase. A home. Story 75. I have always wanted to live in New York City and maybe buy a home there. Story 76. Real estate for rent. 2 study programs for my children. A house away from everyone for me and my family. Story 77. Freaking groceries. I'd like to go into Publix and have a reason to use a shopping cart again instead of those small baskets. Also, a full tank of gas until it stops by itself. Story 78. That sweet phone call I have been dreaming of for years. Hi boss. It's Dallas. I will not be returning to work. Ever. Sorry about that. I will take the entire company out to lunch today, my treat. Story 79. Modest-sized house with land large enough for a paddock, located in the countryside. Story 80. First, I am getting my teeth fixed. I think I have lost about 10 pounds because it hurts to eat. Story 81. Haha. A nap. I would buy time to sleep without feeling guilty. Story 82. A ticket to a place outside the country where nobody knows me. Story 83. Screw the lawyers and fiduciaries. I am buying everything I need to set up my brewery operation in Guatemala. Story 84. An apartment large enough for my daughter and me so I can leave my marriage. Story 85. I am paying off my debt and then purchasing many investments. Story 86. I would fix my roof and install solar panels. Then I would work on my shed in the garden. Story 87. I would be hiring a personal assistant to organize my life for me. Story 88. First, I will run away from everyone I know and stay silent for about 3 months so the excitement dies down. Story 89. After an attorney or accountant, I think the first thing I would buy is a 4-bedroom house so each child can have their own room. Nothing big or glorious, just a decent 4-bedroom in the neighborhood. Story 90. A vehicle that does not have any dashboard warning lights constantly on. Story 91. I am building a private room, maybe a recreational vehicle for finding public places. Story 92. A compound where I can live in my own home and my parents can be on the property with me. I live across the country from them and worry about them all the time. I cannot move and they cannot move, but if I were wealthy, I would move there in a heartbeat. Story 93. All my debt will be paid off. The rest of the money goes into funds and stocks that give dividends, which will be reinvested until I can quietly retire and live off the dividends for the rest of my life. Story 94. A financial advisor, then a second financial advisor to monitor the first one. Story 95. I would buy my mother a nice, big home because she is a woman who has been through hell and back and deserves it. Then I would gamble it all. Story 96. A flat without a mortgage, And with my salary and remaining prize, I am helping my parents to retire early and have a comfortable retirement. Story 97. A house far away from the city. I would have some animals, a pool, a fishing stocked pond, and no neighbors for miles. On the far corner of my property, I would grow pumpkins and have a pumpkin patch and hayride during the fall season because I have always loved that sort of thing. Story 98. Gold plating for my house. I have always wanted to live in a solid gold house. Story 99. I will buy a house first, then a car, and do a lot of shopping for me and my family. After that, I will donate something to poor people. Story 100. Florida municipal bonds. No federal or state taxation on gains. Story 101. First thing, probably gas to get to the lawyer's office. Story 102. A 2-month vacation, mainly to relax and get away from people who ask for money. Story 103. The first thing I am doing is paying off any bills and debts I owe. Then I am buying a house. Story 104. Providing homeless individuals with a nice dinner at an upscale hotel near salons, boutiques, and spas. Story 105. Pay off every debt I have, pay my girlfriend's debt, and pay a few friends' debts. Make sure I have a good place to live and invest the rest. Story 106. I would buy land, a large piece of it. Since no one creates more land, it is the best asset. Story 107. Food, clothing, and education for orphans and needy children in war-torn countries, such as Palestine, Iraq, Yemen, and Syria. Story 108. First thing I am doing is paying my debt and buying a car since I have not been able to afford one. Story 109. My old elementary school. I would fix it up and turn it into apartment homes for people who are struggling. Story 110. Besides a new lawyer and financial advisor, a really expensive and nice telescope to see objects from my backyard. I want to see the stars and hopefully planets. Story 111. A flight to a warm and tropical place such as the South Pacific, as far away from civilization as possible, buy an island and build my dream house. Or Chile and do the same, or buy a nice big boat and sail the world as an aquatic nomad. All to leave the United States of America, which is quickly becoming an authoritarian fascist nightmare. Story 112. I do not want to win any money. We are very happy with what we have. Our children are fine. I would only donate it. Story 113. Depends on how much and whether it is paid all at once or in installments. Story 114. I really would like to go to Halloween Horror Nights this year, but it is not in the budget. Story 115. A home in a major city where I can socialize and regularly attend events I find interesting. Story 116. I would finish paying off that college loan I have been carrying for 20 years. Story 117. A house in Jackson Hole, Wyoming in the Grand Tetons. Either that or Alaska, far away from civilization and enjoying my life. Story 118. A business attorney, an estate attorney, and a financial planner. Story 119. Property for my husband and me so our children can also build on it. Story 120. A presidential pardon because apparently those are for sale now. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.